So today we're going to continue with our work and we're doing area of a circle. So here's a circle and we're finding the area inside that shape. So our formula is area equals pi r squared. So we know what the pi is all about now, but the formula, I don't want you getting it mixed up. Okay, so circumference of a circle is C equals 2 pi r, but area of a circle is pi r squared. So the way you remember the difference between them is that remember that area involves square units. So we put a squared there. The little 2 goes as a squared on top of the r. If it's not area, the 2 is not going on top of the r and it's going to go out the front. So that's the way I remember it. Okay, so now we're going to use it in these questions. The first one is calculate the area of this circle. We're going to start with our area formula. There's only one formula for the area of a circle. So A equals pi r squared. So now we're going to do pi times, remember there's a times in here. Now the radius is 12. So we're going to put the 12 in there. And don't forget the squared up here in the formula. So now you're just going to your calculator. And we're going to type in, you know how to get pi now. So we're going to press shift pi times 12. Now we're up to there. Now remember the squared button is this little x squared that we've got up the top here. Okay, so we're going to press this x squared button. The squared goes up the top and then press equals. So we're going to write that answer down. Okay, and this question wants us to round it to 1 decimal place. So we're going to draw our line after 1 decimal place and look at the next digit. This digit that we've circled is 5 or more, so the one before the line goes up by 1. That will become a 4 there now. And we copy everything in front. And look at your units, it's millimetres. And we are doing area, so it's millimetres squared. Okay, let's look at the next question. We're finding an area. Start with your area formula. Area equals pi r squared. So now we're going to sub in our radius, which is 2.5. And don't forget that the radius has to be squared, so we'll put a squared there. So now you're going to go to your calculator. We're not putting all of this in because we've got to read this question. It says in terms of pi. So remember we said in the last lesson that in terms of pi means that pi must be in your answer. So we're not going to put the pi in the calculator. All we're putting in the calculator is 2.5 squared. So let's work that out and see what we get. So that's all I'm putting in. 2.5, and then we're pressing our x squared button and pressing equals. 6.25, so we'll write that down. And then the pi goes on the end. Okay, now let's look at the units. It's centimetres and it's area, so it's centimetres squared. Okay, so remember that in terms of pi means that pi must be in your answer, and it is. So it can't be going into the calculator because we need to have that pi still there. All right, number 3. We're calculating the area of this circle now. So start with your only formula we know, A equals pi r squared. So now we're going to sub into our formula. So it's pi times. Now, what's the radius here? This question's given us a diameter. So I want you to go to the side and just write down in red what your radius is. So the diameter is 10. And we need to halve that to get just our radius from here to here. So we're going to divide by 2 or halve it. And if you work that out, you're going to get 5. So that's the radius we're putting in. Okay, so the 5 goes in here for the radius. And if you work that out on your calculator, you're going to get what I've already written down here. Now we're rounding it to 2 decimal places. So draw your line after 2 decimal places. Circle the next digit. This is 5 or more, so this will go up by 1 to a 4. And copy everything in front of that. Okay, and on the end, we're putting centimetres, and it's an area, so it's squared. Now we're going to do the area of this same shape now in terms of pi. So remember, we're doing our substitution first. So pi times our radius, remember we just found before, was 5 squared. Now it's in terms of pi, so we want to keep our pi, don't put it in the calculator. So you're just working out 5 squared, that will give you 25, and put your pi on the end. Again, we're going to put our units down, so it's centimetres, and area is squared, so that's your answer. Alright, now we've got a bit more of a word problem here. I know I said I'd do the easier examples today, but I just thought I'd give you one that's a little bit harder. So it says Kevlar is a very strong light plastic. If Kevlar is used to make a solid bike wheel, now that means it's not a wheel with spokes, okay? It's just a complete solid circle of plastic. The bike wheel has a diameter of 685.5 millimetres. What is the area of the plastic needed? So underline what we're looking for, area. The important thing here is they've given you a diameter and what the diameter is. Now, the answer that they want is in square centimetres. So the first thing we're going to do is take this and change it to centimetres. Okay, so if we get our diameter of 685.5 millimetres, we want to change that straight away to centimetres. Okay, so we're going to a bigger unit, so we're going to divide by 10, because on your ruler there's 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre. So if you do that on your calculator, you'll get 68.55 centimetres for your diameter. But we still have to find our radius. So if that's your diameter, to get your radius, you're going to halve that number or divide it by 2. Okay, so if we do that, let's go to the calculator. And you can type this in as a fraction still, or you can use divided by. So I'm going to do the fraction key, 68.55, down arrow 2, equals, and we end up with 34.275. That's our radius. And that's in centimetres. Okay, so it's really important that you read ahead to find out what you've got to do in the end. Right, we need an area in square centimetres. So make sure any measurement they give you is converted straight away to centimetres. Then we've got a diameter in centimetres, but we need a radius for this formula. So we halve it and work out our radius in centimetres. Now we can sub that number in. Right, that number can now go into our formula. So write your formula down. Pi times, write down your radius, squared, and you'll end up with that answer when you put that in your calculator. And then it says to 2 decimal places, so we're going to draw a line after our 2 decimal places. That next digit is circled. That's 5 or more, so the digit before the line goes up by 1. That will become a 7 in that spot, and we're copying everything in front of that. Okay, and the units, remember we already did it in centimetres, so it's in centimetres squared. Okay, so in the next lesson, next time, we will do harder areas just to practice some harder word problems on it. But for tonight, you're just going to be doing the homework for the area on the easier questions. Okay, good luck with your homework.